The night sky over the Cascade Mountains looked like a thick velvet blanket with 1,000 cold stars shining through it. Captain Nathan Cole kept his small Cessna steady as he turned toward the private airstrip where he and his 12-year-old daughter, Emily, were going to camp for the weekend. The vents let in the smell of pine and fresh mountain air. Nathan had always flown away from the noise of Seattle. Emily sat next to him with her chin on one hand. She said softly, "It feels like we're the only people in the whole world up here." Nathan said, "That's the magic of flying at night," and he changed the throttle. "It's just us, the plane, and the stars." Emily smiled a little, but he could see how tired she was round her eyes. The first week of middle school was hard because there were new people, new teachers, and the awkward shuffle of trying to find a place. Nathan hoped the strip would help her relax a little. A loud crack of thunder came out of nowhere, scaring both of them. The weather report said the skies would be clear, but a dark bank of clouds was moving in from the west. Nathan frowned and hit the altimeter. He said to himself, "That storm wasn't supposed to be here yet. Hold on tight, Em. We will sit down before it gets to us." The plane hit a patch of turbulence. Emily held onto the edge of her seat, but her dad's calm voice kept her steady as he flew the Cessna toward a narrow strip of lights shining below. The engine ticked as it cooled down, and they were on the ground in no time. Nathan said, "Welcome to Echo Lake," and forced a smile. "Before it rains, let's set up the tent." They set up the tent just past the trees, and the lake's surface reflected the first flashes of lightning in the distance. The air smelled like wet dirt and pine sap. They ate sandwiches for dinner and then crawled into their sleeping bags. The rain started to softly hit the nylon walls. Nathan listened to the steady beat and felt himself drifting off to sleep. Then a strange cry woke him up. Not an owl. He didn't know what kind of animal it was. The sound was high and then, like a sharp, sad wail that cut through the rain. Emily sat up with her eyes wide open. "Hey, Dad, what was that?" Nathan said, "Probably a fox," without thinking, even though he didn't believe it. He took his flashlight and opened the tent. The rain had turned into a mist. The forest was dark and quiet, except for another cry that was closer this time. It came from the rocky slope that went down to the lake. Nathan said, "Stay here." "No way. I'm on my way." Emily put on her rain jacket and followed him before he could say anything. Nathan's flashlight beam moved across the wet ferns and moss until it found something small and shiny near the rocks. Emily gasped, "Is that a bird?" Nathan moved closer. Not a bird. There was a creature the size of a big house cat curled up in the mud. It had silver scales all over its body that caught the light like wet metal. Two delicate wings, which were too big for its body, were folded and torn. A thin line of red ran down the membrane of one wing. The creature looked up at Nathan with eyes that were the color of molten ember. It made a soft, heartbreaking whimper again. "Hey, Dad," Emily said. It looks like a dragon." Nathan's logical mind fought back. Dragons were not real. They were just stories. But the evidence that was shaking in front of him didn't fit any explanation. The little thing tried to stand up, but it fell down. "It's hurt," Emily said, and without hesitation, she knelt next to it. "We can't just leave it, Emily. Be careful." But the thing just shook. It didn't hiss or bite. Emily carefully put her hands under its body. The scales gave off warmth, which was surprising and almost comforting. Nathan let out a slow breath. "Okay," he said, and his pilot's instinct for emergency triage kicked in. "We'll take it back to the tent, quietly." Emily spread her jacket out on the floor of the tent to make a bed. The tent smelled like rain and pine. The dragon, if that's what it was, curled up in the fabric and breathed heavily. It took short, quick breaths that made its little chest rise and fall. Nathan looked at the ripped wing. "Looks like a big cut. He tried to stay calm and said, "Maybe it got stuck on the rocks." He used bottled water to clean the wound and then wrapped it in a strip of gauze from their first aid kit. The creature flinched but didn't fight back. With just one finger, Emily stroked its head. "Hey, little one, you're fine now." The dragon closed its eyes, and a low hum came from its chest, like a cat's purr. Nathan sat back, his mind racing. Where did it come from? Were there any more? What if someone or something was looking for it? The storm grew stronger outside, and thunder rolled across the mountains. Emily leaned in and whispered, "Dad, what if it belongs to someone else? What if its mother is out there looking for it?" Nathan's stomach got tight. He said, "That's exactly what I'm worried about." The little dragon slept fitfully between them for the rest of the night, and they were all quiet. It was grey and foggy when dawn broke. Nathan opened the tent and saw that the forest was foggy and wet with rain. The little thing moved, blinked at the pale light, and stretched its neck. Emily smiled. "Good morning, little dragon." It made a soft chirp, and then tried to open its wings. It whined and pain flashed across its face. Nathan said, "We need to figure out what to do. We can't keep it. But we can't just call animal control and say, 'Hey, we found a dragon.'" Emily bit her lip. "Maybe we can help it get back to where it came from. Like, follow a path." A low, distant roar echoed through the valley before Nathan could answer. It was deeper than thunder and sounded more like a jet engine, but it was wilder and alive. The baby dragon stopped moving, and its pupils turned into slits. Nathan and Emily looked at each other. "That wasn't thunder," Emily said softly. The roar came again, this time closer, shaking the damp air of the morning. The baby dragon hissed softly and quickly, trying to hide under Emily's jacket. Nathan's heart began to race. Whatever was looking for this little animal was big, and it was coming to them. The sound came back through the fog, deep, guttural, and close enough to shake the wet ground under Nathan's boots. He looked through the treetops for anything that seemed off, but the morning fog hid everything more than a few dozen yards away. Emily hugged the baby dragon even tighter to her chest. "Dad, what is that?" Nathan said, "I don't know," even though his instincts as a pilot told him they needed a plan. "But whatever it is, it's looking for this little one, and it's huge." The dragon whined softly, and there was a low clicking sound in its throat. Emily ran her hand over its head, which was covered in silver scales. "We need to hide." Nathan nodded his head. "Pack up the tent in silence. We'll go deeper into the woods." They worked quickly. Emily put the dragon inside her rain jacket like a living bundle, and Nathan took down the tent in record time. The roar came back, bouncing off the hills round it. A few crows that were scared flew out of the trees, their wings cutting through the fog. Nathan led the way up the hill along a deer trail, and the wet ferns hit his legs. The baby dragon moved around under Emily's jacket, making little chirps that were both nervous and strangely musical. Emily said, "H, you are safe with us." They climbed for almost an hour, and the fog was as thick as milk. Nathan's calves hurt. He stopped at a boulder covered in moss to rest and listen. "Be quiet." Emily looked inside her jacket. The dragon looked up at her with eyes that looked like molten ember. "Maybe it left," she said with hope. Nathan shook his head. "Or it's going round. We can't just assume it's gone." He looked at his phone and saw that there was no signal. He didn't think there would be one this far into the Cascades. But the reminder felt heavy. The fog started to clear up by late morning. Sunlight came through the trees and painted the forest floor in moving gold. They came to a small clearing where they could rest on a fallen log. Emily sat very still, holding the dragon close to her like a fragile bird. It moved and made a soft sound, like a question. Nathan knelt down next to them. "How's the wing?" Emily carefully pulled the jacket back. The bandage that wasn't meant to be there was wet, but still holding. The creature's chest rose and fell steadily with each breath, but it winced when it tried to stretch its wing. Nathan whispered, "You're a tough little guy." Emily smiled a little. "Could be a girl." Nathan couldn't help but laugh. "Okay, then she's a tough little girl." The dragon tilted its head, as if it understood. They both froze when they heard a sudden noise. A branch broke on the other side of the clearing. Nathan's hand went right to the small utility knife on his belt. A dark figure moved through the trees. "Stay behind me," he said softly. The shape stepped into the light, and instead of a monster, it was a woman in her late 20s wearing a cocky ranger's jacket and a wide-brimmed hat. She had a pair of binoculars round her neck. She stopped right away when she saw them. "Oh, I didn't think anyone would be up here," she said, her voice calm but curious. "I'm Ranger Alyssa Tran. Is everything okay?" Nathan put the knife down, but he didn't fully relax. "Good morning. We were camping near Echo Lake and decided to go for a hike." Alyssa tilted her head to the side. "Did you hear that weird roar earlier?" Nathan and Emily looked at each other quickly. "Yeah," Nathan said carefully. "Do you have any idea what it was?" "I'm not sure." Alyssa moved closer and looked at the trees. "Some hikers said they saw, well, something very big, going up in the air. I thought it was just rumors, but after that sound, I'm not so sure." Inside Emily's jacket, the baby dragon made a soft squeak. Alyssa squinted her eyes. "You have an animal in there." Emily wrapped her arms round the bundle even tighter. "It's hurt. We found it. Can I look?" Emily turned to look at her dad. Nathan thought for a moment, then nodded. Emily slowly opened the jacket. The little dragon blinked in the sun, and its silver scales sparkled like frost. Alyssa took a deep breath. "Oh, my. That's—" She squatted down with her eyes wide. "That's not possible," Nathan said dryly. "Tell me about it." Alyssa reached out her hand, but stopped just short of touching it. She said softly, "It's beautiful, but what if there's a baby?" Nathan finished by saying, "There's a parent." Another roar came from far away, this time sharper and angrier, as if it were on cue. The baby dragon cried and pushed against Emily. Alyssa stood up straight. "That isn't a bear. It's looking for something, whatever it is. And if it's the mother." She suddenly needed to look at them. "We need to get to a higher place. About 3 miles north, there is an old fire lookout, a radio and a safe place to stay." Nathan's pilot brain thought about the choices. A strong tower with good visibility and communication seemed like their best bet. "Go ahead," he said as the sun rose. The hike got steeper. Alyssa moved easily, her ranger's pack swinging lightly. Nathan followed with his own stuff, and Emily held the dragon close in the middle. They went through stands of tall fir trees where the light turned green. And then they crossed a rocky slope that looked down on a foggy valley. From far below came another cry that echoed, this one deeper and more urgent. The little dragon shook. Emily whispered calming things, hiding her own fear behind her determination. Finally, the trees got thinner, and a tall wooden tower stood on a ridge like a guard. Its worn steps led up to a small cabin high above the trees. Alyssa opened the door and let them in. The room smelled like old wood and dust that had been baked in the sun. A big window gave a wide view of the valley and the sky that seemed to go on forever. "Radio's over here," Alyssa said as she walked to a desk in the corner. She played with the controls, and the static came to life. Nathan put his pack down and went to the window to join Emily. The baby dragon moved and looked out at the clouds. Emily smiled gently. "Hey, Dad." "It likes the view." A huge shadow went over the tower before Nathan could answer. The three of them stopped moving. A huge shape came out of the clouds through the window. It was a creature with wings that were wider than a small plane and scales that shone bronze in the sun. Its tail whipped through the air as it flew round, and its eyes glowed like hot gold. Emily gasped. "It's really big." The mother dragon roared so loudly that it shook the windows and made Nathan's bones shake. The noise was both sad and angry at the same time. The baby dragon pressed against the glass and gave a weak chirp in response. Alyssa said in a low voice, "She's looking for her child." Nathan's thoughts were racing. The mother didn't know they were helping. She thought they were kidnappers. The bronze dragon turned sharply and dove toward the tower. The wind hit the building hard, making the wooden beams groan. "Everyone down!" Nathan yelled. The dragon flew by, and the wind from its wings knocked over a chair. The ceiling dropped splinters. The baby cried out in pain. Emily's eyes were full of tears. "She thinks we're hurting it." Alyssa held onto the window frame and said, "We need to show we're not a threat. Maybe she'll calm down if she sees the baby is okay." Nathan snapped. "Or she decides to set us on fire." The tower shook again with a roar. The mother dragon hovered, her big eyes fixed on the little silver thing inside. The baby pushed its snout against the glass and chirped louder, almost like it was singing. The mother tilted her head and opened her nostrils. She let out a soft rumble, which was still strong but not violent. Alyssa swallowed. "Open the window," she said. Nathan looked at her. "Are you out of your mind? She won't stop until she knows her baby is safe. We have to let her know." Emily begged her father with her eyes. "Please, Dad, we have to give it a shot." Nathan's heart raced like a jet engine. But the mother dragon's golden eyes had something in them. Desperation, not anger. He agreed. Slowly, Alyssa opened the window. The warm air that came in smelled like rain and ozone. Emily stepped forward and held the baby dragon up to the hole. The silver thing chirped again, and its wings shook. The mother lowered her huge head until one big amber eye filled the screen. For a moment, the world seemed to stop moving. The baby then made a series of soft clicks, a language that has been round for a long time. The mother answered with a deep, resonant hum that shook the timbers of the tower. Emily smiled even though she was crying. "They're talking." Nathan let out a long breath. "Seems like it." The mother dragon stretched her neck and touched the edge of the window with the tip of her snout. The baby reached out to her, and their scales caught the sun and moonlight like hot metal. Alyssa said in a low voice, "She wants the little one back." Emily hesitated, looking down at the little creature that had already stolen her heart. "Is it going to be okay?" The mother rumbled again, this time more softly. As if to comfort her, Nathan put his hand on Emily's shoulder. "It's time." Emily nodded, and tears ran down her face. She carefully held the baby dragon up to the opening. The mother stretched out a huge, surprisingly delicate claw, and the baby climbed on top of it with a soft chip. The bronze giant stepped back and held her child close to her chest. She looked at the people again, and her eyes shone with what seemed like thanks. Then, with one strong beat of her wings, she flew up into the sky. The wind blew through the tower, bringing with it the smell of rain and something old. Like lightning and stone. Emily watched them until they were just dots in the sun. Alyssa said softly, "She'll take care of it." Nathan pulled Emily in close. "You did a good job, kid." Emily sniffled but smiled. "We did." The sky became a bright blue. The forest whispered in the wind down in the valley, as if nothing had happened that was out of the ordinary. Nathan, on the other hand, knew better. A silver-winged baby was flying home high above the Cascades, and a story that no one would ever believe had just become a part of their lives forever. It was strange how quiet the fire lookout tower was after the dragons left. The only sounds left were the creaking of the sun-warmed wood and the distant hiss of the wind. Nathan leaned against the window frame, still trying to convince himself that the last star hadn't been a vivid hallucination caused by being high up and full of adrenaline. She wiped her eyes with her sleeve. "Do you think anyone would believe us if we told them?" Alyssa, the ranger, laughed dryly. "You mean if we told the forestry service we saw a 30-foot bronze dragon holding a baby in its claws? I'd lose my job before lunch." She put the radio mic back on its hook. "There's no signal anyway. The storm probably knocked the repeater out of service." Nathan let out a long breath. "Maybe that's for the best. I don't think the world is ready for what we just saw." Emily put her chin on the windowsill and looked out at the sky. "I miss it already, the small one." Her voice shook. "Do you think it'll be all right?" Alyssa knelt down next to her. That mother looked strong, protective. "I think the baby is safe with you." Nathan put a hand on his daughter's shoulder. "And we helped. We gave it a shot." Emily nodded, but she didn't take her eyes off the sky. The clouds had thinned out to wisps by late afternoon. Alyssa told them to hike back toward Echo Lake before it got dark. "It's a good 3 hours down if we take the ridge trail," she said as she put her pack on her back. "I can take you back to your plane, if it's still in one piece after that storm." The descent started under a golden canopy of late summer light. Ferns brushed against their legs, and the air smelled like pine and wet earth that had been baked in the sun. Emily would tilt her head every now and then, as if she were listening for a roar. No one came. After a while, she spoke softly to Nathan. "I can't stop thinking about how scared it was when we found it. It had faith in us." Nathan smiled a little. "Because you were kind. You gave it a reason, too. Will we ever see them again?" He thought about it. "Kid, the sky is a big place. But who knows? Life is full of surprises." Emily's eyes sparkled with quiet resolve. "I'll remember every little thing, so I can tell people someday, if it ever feels right." They got to Echo Lake just before dark. Nathan was happy to see that the Cessna was still safe and shining in the last rays of sunlight. He did a quick check of the plane before it took off, while Emily threw stones into the calm water. Like echoes, each stone left a ring of ripples that got bigger and bigger until they crossed. Alyssa stood next to him by the plane. She said, "You two did a good job up there. Most people would have freaked out." Nathan said, "Years of flying have taught me to stay calm when things go wrong. But this was different." Alyssa spoke more quietly. "I've worked in these mountains for 5 years. I've seen black bears, cougars, and even a wolf once. But a dragon." She shook her head. "That makes you wonder what else is out there." Nathan pulled on a strap on the wing tie down. "Whatever it is, it might need some space." She looked him in the eye and nodded. "Some secrets are meant for the wild." The flight home went well. At the last ember of sunset lit up the world below. Emily put her forehead against the window and looked out over the horizon, as if she were hoping to see a flash of bronze or silver. The stars came out one by one, shining brightly and coldly. Nathan looked over. "Are you okay?" "Yeah," she said, but her voice had a sad tone to it. "Just thinking about the dragon, about everything. We fell into something big, and now it seems like we're the only ones who know about it." Nathan smiled gently. "That's a kind of magic, too." They landed at a small airport outside of Seattle long after dark. The lights of the city sparkled like stars that had fallen. Both of them were tired by the time they got to their apartment, but Nathan knew it would take a long time for them to fall asleep. The next morning, a light rain tapped on the windows. Nathan made coffee while Emily drew with colored pencils at the kitchen table. He stopped when he put a mug next to her. She had drawn a baby dragon sitting on a log with its wings folded and its eyes glowing amber on the page. Even though the strokes were rough, the likeness was amazing. He said, "Wow, that's perfect. Emily shrugged, but a small smile pulled at her lips. I don't want to forget how it looked. Every color, every scale. Nathan looked at the drawing. You won't. Some things stay with you, even if you don't have pictures. She put a swirl of clouds round the mother's silhouette, which was bronze and strong. Do you think we were supposed to find it? He thought about it. Maybe it was meant to find us. Emily went back to school later that week. Her teacher told her at pickup that she had been unusually focused and had written the most incredible fantasy story the class had ever heard in her notebook. Emily showed Nathan the pages in the evening. She said it was fiction, but the story told every detail of their trip. Except she changed the names and left the setting unclear. It's just a story, she said quickly, as if to calm herself down. Nathan messed up her hair. It's a good one, and you can tell it however you want. 2 weeks went by. Life went back to normal with homework, late dinners, and the occasional flight on the weekend. But little reminders kept coming up. One night, while Nathan was at the airport office filing a flight plan, a mechanic told him about a strange radar blip over the Cascades. It was a big, fast-moving object that didn't have a transponder. The mechanic shrugged and said, probably a glitch. While they were having a picnic by the lake, Emily said she heard a low, faraway hum. She said, like the mother's call, but when Nathan listened, all he could hear was the sound of leaves moving. They never talked about it with anyone else. The sky held some memories all by itself. The air was cool and the maples were on fire in mid-October. Nathan surprised Emily with a flight on a clear Saturday night. He said, I thought we'd chase the sunset. The Cascade peaks shone with early snow as they climbed into the fading light. Emily leaned forward, her eyes shining. Do you think they're still out there? Nathan smiled. I'd put money on it. They flew west until the sky turned orange and pink. A band of clouds below looked like a silver sea. Nathan thought he saw something shiny above the ridge. For a second, a flash of metallic bronze that was there, then wasn't. Emily must have seen it as well. She held onto his arm tightly and looked shocked. Did you? Dad? Yeah, he said in a low voice. I did. There was a faint echo in the cockpit headset, like a distant hum. It might have been the wind, or something from the past. Emily smiled, her face full of wonder. They remember us. Nathan's heart swelled with a mix of awe and thanks. And we won't forget them. The Cessna flew through the glowing sky, and the world below faded into twilight. Above the Cascades, where stories used to only be told in books, something big and old still moved free, hidden and very real. A year later, the Cascades were under a clear autumn sky, and the tops were covered in early snow. Emily Cole, who is now 13, put her forehead against the cool window of her dad's Cessna. Rivers wound their way through pine forests below, looking like silver ribbons. Nathan said through the headset, It feels good to be back. His voice had that familiar mix of excitement and calm that he always had when he flew. Emily smiled. Since school started, I've been counting the days. This is so much better than math. Nathan laughed. Flying is basically math in action, you know. Yes, but dragons aren't in math. Her dad looked at her quickly from the side with his eyebrows raised, then smiled. Yes, they hadn't said the word dragon out loud in months. It hung in the cockpit like a secret that everyone knew but no one talked about. They landed close to Echo Lake just as the sun was going down behind the mountains. The air smelled like wet cedar and smoke from campfire far away. There weren't supposed to be any storms or surprises on this trip. It was just a simple weekend camping trip. Emily's heart raced as she stepped onto the familiar forest floor, though. She walked to the edge of the lake while Nathan put up the tent. The water mirrored a sky that was melting orange, and a cold wind brought the sound of leaves rustling. Even though a year had passed, every detail of that night, the herd baby dragon, the roar that shook the valley, and the mother's golden eyes still felt as real as it did yesterday. Emily crouched down and ran her fingers over the surface. A raven called from somewhere above the ridges, like a faraway answer. Its echo bounced off the cliffs. They sat by a small fire after dinner. Sparks floated up like little stars. Nathan drank coffee from a dented metal mug. "So," he said, "do you have big plans for the writing contest at school?" Emily poked the hot coals with a stick. "Maybe. I have an idea for a story about a secret valley where dragons live. But I don't want anyone to think it's just a story." Nathan said, "Sometimes fantasy is the best way to tell the truth. You don't have to convince anyone that it's real for it to mean something." Emily smiled a little. "Perhaps I'll name it Echoes of the Sky." He raised his cup to toast. "Nice title." A sudden wind shook the tops of the trees. The fire broke, sending a shower of sparks into the night. Nathan looked up, his pilot instincts on high alert. Then Emily heard it, a low, resonant hum. Not the breeze, not a plane, a sound that made memories come back like a heartbeat. She stood there, her heart racing. "Dad, do you hear?" "Yes," he said in a soft voice. The hum got deeper and rolled across the valley like thunder from far away. The air had a faint smell of ozone, just like it did the night they met the baby dragon. Nathan put his mug down. "Stay close." They went to the open area by the lake. The moon came out from behind a cloud and shone on the water. A shadow fell from the dark sky. The huge wings spread out, catching the moonlight in a wash of silver and bronze. Emily gasped. "That's them." The mother dragon flew low over the lake, making a living constellation of metal and fire. A smaller figure flew next to her. Its wings were fully healed and shone like polished moonstone. The baby was now almost half her size. The sound of their wings was like a rushing river as they flew round each other. A deep, melodic rumble shook the air and made Emily's chest vibrate. Nathan stood still, filled with awe. "They remember us." The younger dragon broke up the line and flew toward the clearing. Emily stepped up without being afraid. It landed with a soft thud and folded its shiny wings. It was amazing up close. It was taller than Emily now, and its eyes were the same molten amber color, but brighter and wiser. The dragon put its head down and made a series of musical clicks that sounded like laughter. Emily reached out with her hand open. The warm scales touched her skin and pulsed with life. Nathan couldn't say anything as mother and child exchanged a series of soft trills. The bigger dragon settled down nearby, its eyes shining with recognition. She tilted her big head in a sign of respect or thanks. Emily felt a sudden pressure behind her eyes, like someone else's thought. She saw pictures in her head, the sun rising over high peaks, hidden caves glowing with crystal light, and a network of caves deep beneath the cascades where dragons lived, safe from people. She gasped. The young dragon touched its forehead to hers softly, and the pictures got clear, a sign of trust and an invitation. "They want us to see," Emily said softly. Nathan frowned. "See what?" "Their world. They're showing me." The mother dragon made a low, steady noise. It made her bones feel like they were vibrating like music. The younger dragon stepped back, then crouched down a little bit, with its wings half open. Emily understood without having to say anything. She said, breathless, "It wants me to ride." Nathan became tense. "Emily, it's okay," she said, her eyes shining. "I can feel it. They wouldn't hurt me." The mother dragon turned her huge head toward Nathan, as if she were waiting for him to make a choice. Every instinct in him told him no, but something deep required certainty took over. He nodded slowly. "Be careful." Emily climbed on the back of the young dragon and held onto a ridge of smooth scales. She felt warmth in her hands. The dragon jumped into the air with a strong push. The night turned into a flurry of stars and wind. As they flew over the valley, Emily held on tight and the moonlight flashed off their silver wings. The world below turned into a tapestry of light and shadow. The baby No, not a baby anymore, banked gracefully next to its mother and let out a happy cry that echoed across the mountains. Emily laughed, but the sound was lost in the wind. They climbed higher and higher until the peaks were far below and the sky was full of diamonds. Emily felt light as a feather, and her heart raced with excitement and a deeper feeling of belonging. The young dragon made a humming sound that echoed in her chest. Images came back to life. Forests that had never been touched by people, caves that glowed with bioluminescent moss, and a secret place where dozens of dragons flew in shimmiaks. There was a whole world hidden in the mountains that was doing well. Tears filled Emily's eyes. She whispered, "You are not alone." The dragons flew down again and then slowly came down. They landed softly near the clearing where Nathan was waiting, his face upturned in awe. Emily slid down, her legs shaking with excitement. "Dad, it was amazing. I saw it all. They have a whole place with secret valleys and caves that glow. They wanted us to know they were okay." Nathan hugged her tightly. "I'm very proud of you." The mother dragon stepped forward and looked into Nathan's golden eyes. He felt a deep sense of gratitude in their depths. She let out a deep, musical sound that shook the ground and then spread her powerful wings. The younger dragon said goodbye in a sweet voice and lightly brushed its snout against Emily's shoulder. Then, with a gust of wind, they flew into the night sky and were gone into the stars. Father and daughter stood still as the echoes faded. Nathan finally let out a breath. "I guess this means they believe we can keep their secret." Emily's heart was both full and hurting. "And we will. Always the end." Echoes of the Sky. Emily entered her story in the school writing contest weeks later. She named it Call of the Cascades. She wrote about bravery, faith, and the magic of keeping something wild and valuable safe. Everyone in class knew it was fantasy when she read it out loud. But when she looked at her dad in the back, who had been invited as a surprise guest, she saw that he understood what was going on. Later, he said quietly, "They'd be proud." Emily smiled. "They already are." As she fell asleep that night, she heard a soft, low hum in the autumn wind outside her window, a sound that only she and her dad would know, a promise that dragons still flew under the same wide American sky, somewhere beyond the mountains. A storm in late summer tears went by. Emily was 15 now. She was taller and more sure of herself, but her eyes still had the same quick spark that Nathan had seen the first time they met the dragons. On a hot August evening, the father and daughter loaded the Cessna with things they would need for the weekend. The western horizon was covered in thick clouds that looked like anvils. Nathan looked up at the sky and said, "Thunderheads are building early. We'll have to keep an eye on the weather as we go to Echo Lake." Emily pulled the strap on her backpack tighter. "Maybe they like storms," she said, her voice half hopeful. "The last time the sky was crazy too." Nathan smiled as he remembered. "Maybe. Let's go see." They left just as the first flash of lightning could be seen. Nathan's nerves calmed down as he felt the familiar thrill of flying, the steady hum of the engine and the feel of the yoke. Emily leaned forward, her eyes on the horizon as if she wanted something amazing to happen. A new sign they got to the lake before dark, but the air already smelled like rain and electricity. Nathan put a small weather radio on a rock after they set up their tent. There was a static hiss, and then a faint, irregular pulse broke through. It was low and rhythmic, not quite like thunder. Emily became stiff. "Listen, Dad, that pattern." The pulse kept going. A deep, harmonic womb that sounded almost like music. Nathan looked her in the eye. "It's them." Emily's heart raced with excitement. "They're calling." The arrival as they rushed to the lake. The first drops of rain fell. The wind made the dark water ripple. A bright flash of lightning lit up the valley, showing two huge shapes coming down from the storm clouds. the bronze mother and the silver dragon, which had grown up and had wings that shone like steel in the moonlight. Emily's breath stopped. "They're even bigger." The silver dragon let out a clear, bell-like cry, and the mother answered with a rumble that shook the ground. Nathan said in a low voice, "They came for you." The younger dragon, who was no longer a child but not yet an adult, landed gracefully on the rocky shore. The color of sunrise, amber gold, shone in its eyes. It bent its head down so Emily could feel the warm scales. She said softly, "I missed you." The dragon made a soft trill, a sound that sounded like a chord being struck on a hidden instrument. A message that needs to be read. The mother dragon flew round once before landing with a gust that sent pine needles flying. She let out a series of deep, echoing notes as the sound carried images through Emily's mind. They were like dark caverns shaking with distant rumbles, rivers bubbling with steam, other dragons flying up into the sky in fear. Emily gasped. She held onto her father's arm and said, "Something's wrong. Their home is in danger." Nathan's face got tense. "How dangerous?" The younger dragon put its forehead against Emily's and shared more images, this time of red-hot rocks and rivers of lava. She realized that there was a volcano somewhere deep in the hidden valley. Emily said, "They need help. A volcano. Soon." Choice in the storm. The rain hit the lake in silver sheets. Nathan thought about the impossible. "What can we do?" "We can't stop a volcano from erupting," Emily said. "Maybe not. But maybe we can help them get people away, scientists, hikers, or anyone else who might be near the mountain." Nathan looked her straight in the eye. He had always told her to do something when someone needed help. "Okay," he said. "We tell everyone we can." The mother dragon made a low sound of approval. "Flight of trust." The silver dragon crouched down with its wings open, which was a clear sign that it wanted to be seen. Nathan thought about it for a second before climbing behind Emily. He could feel the dragon's scales were warm and smooth under his hands. It jumped into the air with a burst of raw power, and the mother followed close behind. The storm opened up around them, and rain fell off their silver wings. Nathan held Emily's waist tightly as the dragon cut through the stormy clouds, and lightning flashed nearby. They broke through the storm and into clear air, while below them the clouds were a choppy ocean. Stars shone brightly above, unaffected by the chaos below. A strange calm came over Emily. She had complete faith in this being. The hidden valley is now open. The dragons flew east, faster than Nathan's fastest plane. Mountains rolled out below in endless ridges until a huge crater appeared. It was a secret valley surrounded by steep cliffs. Emily gasped. There were dozens of dragons flying round in the dark, their scales shining like real gemstones. Cracks in the rock let out a faint red light into the air. Smoke rose in dark clouds that looked bad. Nathan whispered, "They're real," in awe, all of them. As the silver dragon flew low, Emily and Nathan could see a lot of things. Lava pulsed in hidden vents, and geysers of steam hissed from cracks. Even at their height, the ground shook. The mother dragon's roar echoed across the basin as she gave an order. Smaller dragons flew away in neat spirals, getting ready to leave. Emily felt a sense of urgency, as if someone was asking her to do something. They needed someone to tell people on the outside world to stay away from danger. Running against time, the silver dragon dropped them off near a rocky outcropping where a narrow path led down to a ranger station miles away. Emily turned to her friend as they got off their horses. "We'll give them a heads up, I promise." The dragon lowered its huge head, and its amber eyes shone in the dark. Nathan took a handheld aviation radio out of his bag. He was lucky enough to pick up a weak signal. He yelled, "Mayday, this is Private Pilot Nathan Cole," and gave the coordinates. "Possible volcanic activity. Please send a geological response right away and evacuate the area. Staticist." And then a voice said, "Copy. Nathan Cole. Evac teams are on their way." He let out a big breath. They heard us. Goodbye under fire. The ground shook again, this time more deeply. The mother dragon called out in a low, urgent voice. There wasn't much time left. Emily got close to the silver dragon and put her forehead against its scales. She whispered, "Be safe. I'll always remember." The dragon let out a soft, harmonic sound that shook her chest. It was a promise without words. Then it opened its huge wings. As the two huge creatures jumped into the air, they led their family away from danger. The embers from the rising vents swirled like fireflies. Nathan and Emily kept watching until they were gone from sight in the smoke. Dawn after the fire hours later, after a scary hike to the ranger station and a sleepless night, news reports confirmed that a major eruption had almost happened. The hidden valley would be off-limits for years, officially because of geothermal instability. No one asked how a private pilot could give such precise coordinates so quickly. Emily sat next to her dad on the steps of the ranger station as the sun rose and painted the sky in soft peach and gold. Ash fell like snow from far away. "They're safe," she said, her voice full of confidence. Nathan nodded. "Because of you." Emily rested against him. "Because of us and because they trusted us." A bond that lasts. Emily filled page after page of her journal with sketches of the silver dragon in flight, notes about the hidden valley, and even the strange sounds they made when they called. She never bragged about them or shared them online. There were some truths that were too private to show to the public. She would sometimes go out on the balcony late at night and listen. When the wind was just right, she could hear a faint, low hum that sounded like a heartbeat in the sky. It was old and comforting. She always smiled and said, "I hear you," in a low voice. Afterward, years later, when Emily started studying environmental science and aviation, she would often think back to those nights in the Cascades, the silver hatchling that was shaking, the mother's loud roar, the secret world of fire and flight that people couldn't see. The dragons had done more than amaze her. They had taught her how to be responsible, brave, and how to keep her word. The world never knew the whole story, but the bond stayed strong. It was an unbroken thread between the sky and the earth, between what could be seen and what couldn't. Whenever a storm rolled across the mountains and the air thrummed with distant thunder, Emily would look up, her heart lifting, certain that somewhere above the clouds, a flash of silver still remembered her name. An autumn that won't stop. 3 months after the eruption scare, the Pacific Northwest fell into a restless fall. Storms came early, shaking windows and covering the mountains in snow all of a sudden. Emily, who was almost 16, felt the pull of the sky more than ever. She sat on the porch with her sketchbook on a quiet Saturday morning and drew the silver dragon from memory. She could feel the scales moving under her pencil. Nathan went outside with a cup of coffee. He joked, "That's the 100th sketch this month." Emily gave a small smile. "I keep drawing it, hoping it will come back." Nathan sat down next to her on the steps. "They'll come back when it's time. Keep in mind that they choose when to be found." Still, her heart ached to see the creatures again who had told them their secret. A message from the sky. Emily saw a strange shimmer in the clouds that night while helping her dad get the Cessna ready for a routine supply flight. They glowed with a faint silver light, like moonlight had been trapped inside. "Look, Dad," she said quietly. Nathan looked where she was looking. "Hello." Melodic hum floated through the cold air. It was so soft that it could have been the wind, but the tone was too clear and familiar. The same harmonic call they had heard the night before the eruption. Emily said, "They're close." Nathan looked at the darkening sky. "It's a clear night." We could hear the sound. He saw the spark of excitement in her eyes. "But only if we stay near the valley." Emily was already shaking her head. "Let's go." Into the dark they left when the first stars came out. The plane rose smoothly, and the hum got louder through the faint static in the headset. The world below faded into shadows and silver lakes. Emily looked out at the horizon. A thin, shimmering arc of light appeared, a ribbon of phosphorescent mist curling like a path through the night sky. "It's leading us," she said. Nathan loosened the yoke and followed the ghostly trail to a group of rough peaks that were much higher than where they usually flew. He believed in the signal like a sailor believes in a lighthouse. The secret sanctuary they climbed to the top of the last ridge, and Emily gasped. There was a second valley in a deep basin covered in ice that they had never seen before. The stars shone like polished glass on a huge, frozen lake. Down it, sharp cliffs sparkled with frost crystals. There were 6 dragons flying in a circle above the lake. They were bronze, emerald, and obsidian, and in the middle was the silver one, which had grown taller and more beautiful than ever. Emily put her hand on the window. "It found us." Nathan landed the Cessna on a narrow stretch of frozen shoreline, his heart racing. They stepped outside into the cold, charged air. Coming together, the silver dragon came down with a strong sweep of its wings and landed so softly that the ice barely cracked. As it lowered its head toward Emily, its amber eyes glowed warmly. Emily whispered, "You've changed," as she touched the familiar scales, which now had a faint, icy glow around the edges. The dragon made a soft trill, like wind blowing through chimes. The bronze mother landed behind it and gave a deep rumble of recognition. Nathan could feel a wave of thanks coming from the big creature, like a silent thank you. "They wanted us to see this place," Emily said, her voice shaking with awe. "A safe place in the winter." The present, the silver dragon, stepped back and opened up one huge wing. There was a piece of crystal on the frozen ground that Emily had never seen before. It was clear as water but glowed from within. "Is this for me?" she asked. The dragon lowered its head, and its eyes shone. Emily knelt down and picked up the piece. It vibrated softly in her hand, even though the air was cold. A vision came to her: storms, fire, rivers, mountains, and a soft feeling of connection, like a bridge between worlds. "It's a memory," she said slowly. "Their memory." Nathan's voice was quiet. "They're talking about their past, a night of tales. It felt like ours passed in a dream." Emily and Nathan sat next to the silver dragon, which was humming deep, resonant chords. Each note opened up pictures: dragons flying over ancient forests before people ever set foot there, caves that are hard to find but full of glowing crystals, hatchlings learning to ride the wind for generations. Emily closed her eyes and let the visions fill her. She felt the weight of ages settle in her heart. Finally, the bronze mother let out a low call, which meant the night was over. The dragons slowly spiraled up above the lake, their scales shining like stars. A promise made again, the silver dragon lowered its head one last time before leaving. Emily put her hand on its nose. She whispered, "I'll keep your secret, always." The dragon sang one last note, which sounded like a goodbye and a blessing, before flying into the sky. One by one, the others followed, their shapes blending in with the stars. Nathan and Emily stood in silence, and the crystal shard in Emily's hand glowed softly. Nathan said, "They wanted us to remember and to keep believing," Emily said. The trip back, Emily held the crystal close to her chest as they flew home under a sky full of stars. It pulsed softly, like a heart. Nathan looked at her and smiled. "You know, you're going to do great things with your life." Emily smiled back. Because of them, the radio made a soft crackling sound, but Nathan didn't turn it on this time. The engine's steady thrum and the faint echo of dragon song on the wind were the only sounds. The end of wonder, Emily put the crystal on her windowsill when she got back to her room. Every night, it sparkled softly, making patterns on the walls that looked like small pieces of dragon flight. She only told her father. The sky held some truths, and every time the clouds got thicker and a low hum filled the night, Emily would go outside, look up, and whispered to the vastness, "I hear you." Years in the making, 10 years went by like a fast river. Emily Cole was now 26 years old. She was a licensed pilot, an environmental scientist, and a guardian of secrets that the world could barely imagine. She and Nathan had put the crystal shard in a small cedar box and locked it up. They would put it on the porch on quiet nights and watch it shimmer softly in the moonlight. They didn't talk much about the dragons, but the memory was like a second heartbeat in their hearts. The world around them changed. New storms, new technology, and new worries about a planet that was getting warmer. But Emily always felt a quiet rhythm in the sky, a call that never went away. The omen in late September. The weather in the Cascades changed in strange ways. There were violent lightning storms without rain, rollers at strange latitudes, and animals moving round in strange ways. One night, Emily flew by herself to test the conditions in the upper atmosphere for her research. Her instruments went crazy. Compasses spun, pressure gauges stopped working, and then a deep, layered harmony filled her headset. A sound she knew better than her own name. She couldn't breathe. "They're here." The call, a bright path of silver clouds, opened up under the moon, leading to the secret winter hideaway where she and Nathan had once stood. She banked the plane without thinking, her heart racing. She gasped as the Cessna flew over the last ridge. It looked like stars had fallen and melted into the ice, making the frozen lake glow in a strange way. Dozens of dragons flew in a slow, serious circle. The silver one flew high in the middle, now huge and shining, its scales sparkling with both moonlight and faint gold streaks. There was no sign of the Bronze Mother. Meeting again and saying goodbye, Emily landed on a plateau covered in snow and stepped out into the clear night. The silver dragon came down, its eyes shining like molten amber. "Hi, my friend," Emily said in a low voice. A low, deep hum came from its chest. It was a sound of welcome, but it was also sad. She thought of a lot of things, like the Bronze Mother resting in a cave of light, her life quietly ending after hundreds of years of running away. Emily blinked away tears. "She's gone." The silver dragon nodded its head in agreement, and a quiet sadness hung in the air between them. The present of memory, the dragon pulled out a second crystal from a pouch of shiny scales on its neck. It was bigger than the one Emily had at home, and glowed slowly in a golden color. It put the shard down gently in the snow in front of her. As she touched it, vision swirled. Before humans ever looked up, the skies were full of dragons. For generations, guardians have kept volcanic fires in check to protect delicate ecosystems. A time when people and dragons might have to work together to protect the world. The message was clear. Give this to someone else. Show them how. Emily felt the weight of the responsibility settle on her shoulders like a new set of wings. "I will," she said out loud. The flight of trust, the dragon bent down and offered its back. Emily climbed up without thinking. With one powerful stroke, they flew up, slicing through a sea of stars. The Cascades looked like scattered silver coins far below. They kept climbing higher and higher until the curve of the earth turned into a black-blue infinity. From up there, Emily could see the delicate swirl of weather systems, the faint shimmer of city lights, and the fragile, beautiful beauty of the planet she had promised to protect. The dragon let out a loud call that shook her bones. Emily added her own voice, a soft hum, to the old song. Return and fix. The dragon took her back to the plateau before dawn. It put its forehead against hers as a silent blessing, then rose into the pale sky. Emily watched until it disappeared into the clouds, a silver streak fading into the sunrise. She held the golden crystal tightly and felt its warm pulse match her own heartbeat. A legacy starts months later. Emily stood in front of a group of young pilots and environmental students in a lecture hall. A digital picture of the Earth from space, fragile and blue, glowed behind her. She talked about protecting ecosystems and habitats that are hidden and huge. Dragons were never mentioned by her, but when she held up a clear crystal pendant with a faint but steady light inside, the audience gasped in amazement. Remember, she said, some truths are bigger than proof. Guard what you can't always see. Nathan, who was sitting in the back row, smiled with pride. Epilogue. Skybound on quiet nights, Emily still hikes to high ridges, the crystal warm against her chest. A deep, harmonic hum flows through the clouds when the wind is just right. She lifts her face to the stars and whispers a promise that only the sky can hear. I'm still paying attention, and I promise to keep our secret safe. A silver shape glides through clouds lit by the moon. Far above, the world below can't see it, but it is forever tied to the girl who once healed an injured hatchling and became a guardian of the sky.